everybody, it's Type1GritChick coming at you from Virginia on vacation, and today I want to talk to you about eating low carb, managing diabetes while you're traveling. It's summertime, people are traveling, and when you are eating low carb, it can be very hard to stay on track. So I want to share some of the things that I have learned this summer from experience. I'm very new to this. As you know, I was just diagnosed this year in March with the type 1 and started the low carb diet. So eating this way, away from home, out of my routine, has been a challenge. Add on being a diabetic and having supplies, insulin, all kinds of things that you have to take into consideration. I have learned a lot, and I really want to share it with you. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is supplies. Our first trip this summer, I didn't really think that through, and I ran out of syringes, and that was a pretty scary thing. Luckily, I had some insulin pens that I was able to sub for the vials that I normally use with syringes, and I had plenty of pen needles. So while I did have to switch insulins for a little while, and that did cause a little bit of an issue, I was still able to maintain my blood sugars and make it home. So that is something that I want to share. Definitely plan ahead for the amount of supplies that you're going to need and have extra if at all possible. This time around, I made sure that I had more than enough syringes. I made sure that I had extra insulin. Something I learned you can do is contact your pharmacy and let them know you are going out of town and you won't be back for your refill, and they can get you an approval for an early refill. Another reason why having extra supplies and medication is important. Both trips I have experienced my insulin going bad, and having extra vials is so important, and it really alleviates the worry and concern. That way you know if something happens like your insulin going bad, you can switch it out and there's no concern. So now we've covered the diabetes supplies, and just thinking about that in advance, it may sound obvious, but it wasn't something I really took into consideration, and I'm glad that I did this second time around. But let's talk about eating low carb. When you're traveling, that can be super easy or super scary and intimidating and hard. It's really up to you, and the most important thing is preparation. Being prepared to be in situations where you're tempted to not have what you want to eat in the moment and having to improvise. So food preparation, mental preparation is really important when you're trying to travel on a low carb diet, and stick to it because it is possible. You don't have to give in on eating low carb just because you're traveling or around people that aren't eating like you. Both of our trips were road trips, so we were in the car for a long period of time. One of the things that I did to prepare for that was boil eggs. So I'm also making some keto Cheez-Its using Sargento ultra thin sharp cheddar. So we're gonna see how that turns out as well. Those will be a nice snack in the car. Wow. Like, look at that. That's how they come out. Pretty cool. Having little snacks that are good for you to snack on in the car makes a huge difference. That way, if you go to a fast food restaurant or a gas station, you're less tempted. There are also ways to eat fast food low carb. That's a whole nother video. Another thing I did for the sweet tooth that I get when I'm in the car just sitting there bored waiting to get there is I prepped and made some low carb chocolate chip cookies before we left, so I had a nice large container and I was still able to share with the other people in the car and enjoy them myself, and there was no guilt or blood sugar spike from eating those either. So eating out. I touched base on the fast food in the car, but when you get to your destination, something that we all love to do is eat at restaurants when we're on vacation. And especially when you're with others who eat differently, or you're eating at a restaurant that doesn't follow low carb, it's really important to mentally prepare yourself for what you're gonna eat. Try to know, where are we going in advance, and think ahead. What am I gonna order? How am I gonna stick to this? Am I gonna stick to it? And if you're a diabetic and you decide you wanna eat a little bit outside of the low carb, you're gonna have to make sure that you cover that with insulin. Going on a vacation for the first time on low carb, I learned very quickly that my health and eating healthy was all on me. Nobody else was going to do it for me. I had to make sure that I took care of me. So I want to just get that through to anyone that's going on a low carb diet and planning on vacation. It's really up to you. When you're out and you're on your trip, it's gonna be all on you. So you can either prepare ahead of time or try to wing it, but winging it hasn't worked for me. So I recommend preparing. Another super important thing when you're eating low carb or trying to stay healthy or you're a diabetic is staying hydrated. Drinking plenty of water. When we're on our routine at home, it's so easy to focus on your hydration and how much water you're drinking. But when you're on a vacation, sometimes we have alcohol or we forget how important it is to drink water and stay hydrated. That is going to keep your blood sugars level, and it's going to keep you healthy while you're traveling. And if you're still eating low carb, hydration is key. Whether you're staying with family or you're in a hotel, there's always the ability to run to the grocery store and get foods that are good for you. And if you want to share that with others, that's fine. But if you're just going and buying it for you, that's fine too. Make sure that you take care of you. And going to the grocery store with a list of things that you normally eat helps a lot, especially once you get back and you're able to enjoy those things. Some of my go-tos are having red cabbage on hand, salami, any lunch meat really that is low carb, cheese, olives, any type of vegetable, broccoli, spinach. Those are simple things you can make quick and easy meals with, and really everybody can enjoy them. With both trips, I have had struggles. My blood sugars were not level the entire time. I've had days where I was up and down like a roller coaster. And that's just bound to happen. There's too many variables that come into play. If you're just looking at eating low carb and it's more about weight for you, you're not gonna have nearly as much struggle. But as a type 1 diabetic, there is just too many variables that you can't control. And one thing I've had to do is just just let it ride and accept what I can't control, do everything I can that I can control, and hope for the best. Traveling is difficult when you're a type 1 diabetic. With that being said, sticking with low carb, I have still achieved an amazing blood sugar average. I've dropped from my original 125 average to 123 while being on vacation. My weekly averages are looking beautiful. While a little higher than I wanted them to be, they're not out of range. Low carb is helping me achieve that. So another thing, kind of to add to the being prepared to have temptation, is also mentally preparing to feel left out, especially when you're visiting family or friends, or you're traveling with family and friends who do not follow this diet. It's going to be more difficult than when you're at home in a routine sticking to yourself, because you want to enjoy and you will feel left out. And mentally preparing yourself for that will help you get through that moment, because it's going to happen. Another thing that I want to recommend is preparing certain items beforehand. I didn't do this as much. I did, like I said, prep for the drive and had items in the car so I wasn't tempted. But when you get to your destination, there are situations where having pre-made low-carb waffles or pancakes, or having pre-made bread even that you can eat without having any spike or guilt in what you're trying to do with low carb. If you do that beforehand and have it with you, that would make a world of difference. So little tiny things like thinking ahead about what kind of foods you're going to want to eat, and making them ahead of time and freezing them and bringing them along will make eating low carb on your vacation that much easier. So I know this was a really quick video, but I really just wanted to share the struggles that I've been going through and the things that I've learned. I really hope that you were able to learn something or gain something, and maybe you won't go through the same struggles that I had to go through after watching this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have more coming, so I hope you'll stick around.